Hello, everyone. Welcome to English Insights. Today, we will talk about a very dark and secret part of American history. It is a story about a program called MK Ultra. This was a secret project by a government group, the CIA. The CIA's job is to protect America. But in the 1950s and 1960s, they did very bad things. This is a sad story about government secrets and a time when people were in danger. Besides giving you interesting information, this video also helps you improve your English listening skills naturally. We will look at this story in 6 parts. We will learn why the program existed, what they did to people, and how the truth came out. Part 1. The Origins of MK Ultra. The story of MK Ultra begins in the early years of the Cold War. After World War II, the United States and the Soviet Union became enemies. Both wanted more power and more control in the world. People lived in fear and mistrust. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, American leaders were afraid that the Soviets and the Chinese had found a way to control people's minds. During the Korean War, some American soldiers who were captured spoke against their own country. U.S. officials asked, had these men been brainwashed? Did the enemy know a secret way to change someone's thoughts? The CIA, America's secret spy agency, wanted answers. In 1953, under its director Allen Dulles, the CIA started a new program. The name was MK Ultra. The goal was shocking: to find methods to control or change the human mind. The CIA believed this could be a weapon in the Cold War. With such knowledge, they could protect U.S. soldiers, spy on enemies, and maybe even create perfect agents who would always follow orders. The CIA was ready to try almost anything. They planned to test drugs, hypnosis, strong electric shocks, and other experiments. One drug, called LSD, became very important. LSD makes people see things that are not real and feel strange emotions. The CIA thought it could be a tool to unlock the mind, or maybe to control it. From the beginning, MK Ultra was a secret. The CIA gave money through fake groups and front companies. Universities, hospitals, and research centers were paid to do studies. Some scientists thought they were doing normal research, but the real purpose was hidden. The start of MK Ultra shows a mix of fear, ambition, and secrecy. U.S. leaders were afraid of losing the Cold War. In their desperation, they decided even the human mind could become a battlefield. And so, in 1953, a program began that later became one of the most controversial projects in U.S. history. Part 2. Experiments and Methods. After MK Ultra began in 1953, the CIA started many strange and secret experiments. The main goal was to learn how to control or change the human mind. They wanted to know if they could make people tell secrets, follow orders, or even forget their past. One of the most important tools was LSD. LSD is a very strong drug that makes people see and hear things that are not real. It can change feelings and thoughts for many hours. At first, some doctors thought LSD could be useful for therapy, but the CIA saw something different. They asked, could this drug break a person's mind? Could it make someone confess information or act against their will? The CIA gave LSD to many people. Sometimes, the person knew and agreed, but often they did not know. Soldiers, students, prisoners, and even hospital patients were used as test subjects. In some cases, the CIA gave LSD to people in bars or cafes just to watch what happened. The effects were often scary. Some people laughed without control, some cried, and others felt lost or afraid. But LSD was not the only method. The CIA also tested hypnosis, where a person is put into a very relaxed state and becomes more open to suggestions. They wanted to see if hypnosis could make someone forget or obey special orders. They also tried electroshock treatment, which uses strong electric current on the brain. In normal hospitals, this treatment was sometimes used for depression. But under MK Ultra, it was used in extreme ways, with very high levels of electricity. Many people suffered memory loss after these tests. Other experiments were even stranger. The CIA studied chemicals that might erase memory, truth drugs that could force people to talk, and secret poisons that could kill without being found. Some projects looked at sensory control. For example, keeping someone in a dark, silent room for days to see how their mind would react. The program worked with universities and research centers across the United States and even in other countries. Money was given through secret channels. So many scientists did not know the true source. Some doctors thought they were helping medical research. Others understood more, but still continued because they were paid. Not all experiments were in laboratories. The CIA also created secret houses, especially in cities like San Francisco and New York. In these houses, people were given LSD without their knowledge, often while being watched through one-way mirrors. Agents recorded everything. These projects were called Operation Midnight Climax. Many of the tests had no clear results. Some scientists said the experiments were chaotic and unscientific. Still, the CIA continued, hoping to discover one secret method that could give them control over the human mind. The experiments of MK Ultra were shocking, not only because of what was tested, but because so many people never agreed to take part. They were used without choice. For the CIA, the Cold War fear was so strong that almost anything seemed acceptable. Part 3: First Revelations and Public Shock. For many years, MK Ultra stayed completely secret. Most Americans had no idea that their government was testing drugs, hypnosis, and other strange methods on people. The files were hidden, and the people who worked on the program did not speak. But in the 1970s, the truth began to come out. At that time, the United States was facing a crisis of trust. The Vietnam War had divided the country, and the Watergate scandal had made many people doubt their leaders. Journalists and politicians started to look more closely at the CIA. In 1974, a reporter named Seymour Hersh wrote in the New York Times that the CIA had been doing illegal experiments on American citizens. The story shocked the public. People wanted answers. How could the government drug and use its own people without permission? Soon after, the U.S. Congress created a special group called the Church Committee to investigate CIA activities. During the hearings, more details of MK Ultra were revealed. Former officials explained how money was sent through fake groups, how universities were used, and how many experiments had been done in secret. One of the most famous cases was about Frank Olson, a scientist who had worked with the CIA. In 1953, Olson was secretly given LSD without knowing it. A few days later, he fell from a hotel window and died. At first, the government said it was suicide, but later, it was revealed that he had been part of an MK Ultra experiment. His family did not learn the full truth for more than 20 years. This case made people very angry and increased mistrust of the CIA. The public reaction was strong. Many Americans felt betrayed. They asked, how could a democracy, which speaks about freedom and human rights, run a program that ignored those rights so completely? The CIA admitted that mistakes were made, but said the program had ended in the 1960s. When the truth came out, the CIA destroyed most of the MK Ultra files. More than 150 projects were connected to the program, but only a small part of the documents survived. This made it very hard to know the full story. Still, enough evidence was found to prove that thousands of people had been used in experiments, often without their knowledge. The revelations of MK Ultra caused a deep shock in American society. They showed that, in the name of national security, the government had crossed moral and legal lines. For many people, it was a reminder that fear can make even free nations do dangerous things. The first revelations were only the beginning. More stories and testimonies would appear later, keeping MK Ultra alive as one of the most disturbing secrets of the Cold War. Part 4: Human Stories and Victims. Behind the secret files and official reports MK Ultra was not just about science or politics. It was about real people. Many ordinary men and women were pulled into the program without knowing. Their lives were changed and, in some cases, destroyed. Some of the test subjects were soldiers. Young men in the U.S. Army were given drugs like LSD to see if they would follow strange orders. Many of them had no idea what they were taking. Some became confused or frightened. Others had long-lasting problems with memory, sleep, or emotions. Other victims were found in hospitals and prisons. Because these people were weak or had little power, they were easy targets. Prisoners were promised lighter sentences if they joined tests. Hospital patients were told they were getting new treatments. In truth, many of them were used to study how drugs or hypnosis affected the brain. One of the most tragic stories was about Frank Olson, the scientist who died in 1953 after being secretly given LSD. His family lived for decades without knowing what really happened. Only years later did they learn the truth. Frank had been part of MK Ultra. His death showed how far the program was willing to go, even against its own people. Some victims left behind letters and diaries. In them, they described strange feelings and fear after the experiments. One soldier wrote that he could no longer trust his own mind. Another patient said she felt like her memories had been stolen. These words show the deep personal cost of the project. Even scientists who worked for MK Ultra sometimes felt guilty. Some admitted after the program ended that they had harmed people. A few said they were pressured by the CIA, while others believed they were helping their country in a time of danger. But for the victims, the reasons did not matter. The damage was real. The human side of MK Ultra also raised difficult questions. Were the victims heroes because their suffering gave the U.S. information during the Cold War, or were they simply innocent people used and thrown away? For many families, the answer was clear. Their loved ones were victims of a program that never respected their choice. The tragedy of MK Ultra is that so much was done in secret, without consent. People were treated as tools, not as human beings. Some survivors lived with trauma for the rest of their lives. Others never knew they had been part of an experiment at all. Today, when historians and journalists study MK Ultra, they do not only look at the experiments or the science, they look at the faces and names of those who were harmed. The human stories remind us that this was not just a Cold War project. It was a chapter of pain for thousands of people who never agreed to take part. The victims are the most important part of the MK Ultra story. Without them, the program could not have existed. Their voices, in letters, in diaries, in family memories, continue to speak today, warning us about what happens when secrecy and power are given no limits. Part 5. Decline and End of MK Ultra. By the mid-1960s, MK Ultra was already starting to slow down. The CIA had spent millions of dollars and run hundreds of experiments, but the results were unclear. Many scientists said the program was a failure. Drugs like LSD made people confused, but they did not create perfect agents or reliable mind control. Hypnosis and electroshock gave mixed results, and many of the experiments were too chaotic to use. Still, the program continued in small ways until the early 1970s. At that time, America was changing. The Vietnam War created anger and protests. People began to ask more questions about government secrets. Inside the CIA, some leaders also started to worry. If the truth about MK Ultra was ever discovered, it could destroy the agency's reputation. In 1973, the CIA director, Richard Helms, gave an order to destroy most of the MK Ultra files. Thousands of pages of reports, notes, and plans were burned. Helms believed this would protect the CIA from scandal. For a while, it worked. Very few people outside the agency knew what had happened. But secrets are hard to keep forever. As we saw in Part 3, journalists in the 1970s began to uncover pieces of the story. The U.S. Congress opened investigations, and former CIA workers were called to testify. Even without the main files, some papers survived. They showed that MK Ultra had included more than 150 different sub-projects. These projects covered drugs, brainwashing, torture, and other disturbing areas. When these facts became public, many Americans felt betrayed. They asked, how could our own government test dangerous drugs on soldiers, prisoners, and patients without their knowledge? The CIA answered that the program was part of the Cold War and that they feared the Soviets and Chinese were doing the same. But for many people, this excuse was not enough. The decline and end of MK Ultra left many questions without answers. Because so many documents were destroyed, we will never know the full story. We do not know exactly how many people were tested, how many were harmed, or how much the CIA really learned. This lack of information created rumors and conspiracy theories, some true and some false. By the late 1970s, the CIA promised that MK Ultra was over and would never be repeated. Laws were also created to protect people from secret experiments. But trust had been broken. The story of MK Ultra remained in the public mind as a symbol of how fear and secrecy can go too far. The program ended in silence, not with the big announcement. The CIA tried to close the door and move on. But the victims, their families, and the surviving documents kept the story alive. MK Ultra had ended, but its shadow remained. Part 6: Legacy and Lessons. Today, MK Ultra is remembered as one of the darkest secrets of the Cold War. Even though the program ended in the 1970s, its story is still told in books, films, and documentaries. People remain fascinated and shocked by the idea that a government tried to control the human mind through secret experiments. One part of the legacy is the victims. Many families never received full answers. Some victims lived with trauma, memory loss, or mental health problems for the rest of their lives. Others never even knew they had been part of an experiment. For these people, MK Ultra was not history, it was a personal tragedy. Another part of the legacy is trust. When Americans learned what had happened, they began to question their government more deeply. If the CIA could test drugs on its own people without consent, what else could it do? This loss of trust still shapes how people view secret programs today. MK Ultra also left an impact on science and medicine. The experiments were often unscientific and cruel. They did not follow medical rules or respect human rights. Because of this, many researchers now use MK Ultra as an example of what not to do. Ethical guidelines for research became stronger after the scandal. Today, scientists must get clear permission from test subjects, and they must protect their safety. The story of MK Ultra also feeds many conspiracy theories. Some people believe the CIA continued mind control projects in secret. Others think famous events, crimes, or even cultural movements were linked to hidden experiments. While many of these theories lack proof, the destruction of files by the CIA left enough mystery to keep questions alive. But perhaps the biggest lesson of MK Ultra is about fear and power. The United States created the program because it was afraid of losing the Cold War. In that fear, leaders decided that almost anything was acceptable, even breaking laws, even hurting innocent people. This shows how fear can push a democracy into dangerous actions. Today, when people discuss national security and human rights, MK Ultra is often mentioned. It is a warning that secrecy must have limits. Protecting a nation is important, but so is protecting the rights and dignity of its citizens. In the end, MK Ultra did not give the CIA the power to control minds. It did not create super spies or erase memories perfectly. Instead, it left behind pain, mistrust, and unanswered questions. The legacy of MK Ultra is a reminder that science without ethics can become dangerous, and that governments must be watched closely, even in times of fear. Its story continues to warn us. If we forget the lessons of the past, we may repeat them in the future.